presentation of Fox Sports.
We are Baltimore. We are Minnesota.
Miguel Sano's off to a great start to what he hopes will be a monstrous season. He's back in the lineup tonight for the Minnesota Twins after serving his one-game suspension. Brian Dozier's left ankle has improved to the point where he, too, is back in the lineup tonight for Game 2 with the Chicago White Sox. A couple of veteran pitchers face off against one another. Phil Hughes will make his second start of the year against the Chicago White Sox, and he'll be facing left-hander Derek Holland. It's another abbreviated series from the south side of Chicago, now a two-game series. The Twins won the opener 2 nights ago. Tonight they'll try to make it a two-game sweep, and Twins baseball on Fox Sports North is presented by State Farm. A much better night on the south side of Chicago. Dick Bramer along with Roy Smalley for the final game of this two-game series. And Paul Molitor very happy to have both Brian Dozier and Miguel Sano back in the lineup.
Boy, I guess. One thing a manager doesn't want to have to worry about with all the other things on his mind is that he doesn't have his A players in the lineup. Well, they're back now, starting with his leadoff hitter and power source and run producer and Gold Glove caliber second baseman Brian Dozier. Great to have him back in the lineup because I know he doesn't want to miss hitting against the White Sox. He has killed the White Sox the last 2+ years. And of course the big man back after a one-game suspension, trying to keep the great start that Dick talked about going. This big man, great talent, great strength. All that talent and strength finally starting to really assert itself the way we all have been looking forward to Miguel Sano asserting himself.
Brian Dozier will play his first game in 6 days. Miguel Sano will play his first game in 4 days. And when we come back, Marty Gellner will have details on day 2 of the Twins auction, featuring a visit to the television booth, visit to the radio booth, details and more coming up next. It's an unreliable predictor of the future, but you can't help but take Sano's numbers. We're not even a fifth of the way through the season. And you take the numbers and multiply it times 5, and you're talking about a monster season. He's hitting 300, 8 home runs, 28 runs batted in. It's, yes, nice to have him back in the middle of the Twins lineup, and no one's happier about that than manager Paul Molitor. Hoping that this Twins team can continue to, for whatever reason, play its best baseball on the road. The Menards batting order for the Twins in this now abbreviated 2-game series. Brian Dozier back in a familiar spot in the leadoff spot. Then Robbie Grossman, Miguel Sano. Jorge Polanco batting cleanup. Then Joe Mauer, Eduardo Escobar, Chris Jimenez, Eddie Rosario, and Byron Buxton.
Derek Holland on the mound for the White Sox. Veteran pitcher with the Texas Rangers. Most of his career has come over here after injuries, and it has pitched exceedingly well so far this early season.
And we have the same pitching matchup we had in the first series of the year here, first week of the season. Holland against Hughes. And Brian Dozier will lead things off, then Robbie Grossman and Miguel Sano.
Good to see Brian back in the lineup, and he's, of course, important to this lineup, especially important, I think, against left-handed pitching.
First pitch, chopped foul. Left ankle still sore, discolored, but Brian has it wrapped pretty tightly. Figures he's good to go. One strike to Brian Dozier. And up and away, 1-1.
Twins lineup pretty good against right-handed pitching, not as good against left-handers so far this year. And I think the right-hand hitters that are in the lineup now have to really drive this club against left-hand pitching, and Brian's going to need to be one of those guys. We see Jorge Polanco hitting cleanup. Just there have only been a couple of guys, Grossman and Sano, really, that are hitting well against left-hand pitching.
Inside now, it's 2-2. Two and 2 to Dozier, and lifted foul over the Twins dugout. Here's what happened Friday, so 5 days since he last played. Just a routine ground ball, but his left ankle buckled, and he was lucky to be able to make the play afterwards and keep his balance barely enough to make the flip to first and get the out. 2-2 to Dozier. Pulled foul wide of the bag. The Twins have played 30 games this year, the fewest in the major leagues. Rainouts have contributed to that. Tampa Bay this afternoon played its 37th game. It's just incredible, less than a month and a half in the season to have that big of a spread. 7 more games, one team over another. And Dozier swings and misses and strikes out one away. Northland Ford defense for the White Sox, a mix of veterans and inexperienced players. A veteran, Melky Cabrera in left, Lurie Garcia in center, Avisail Garcia in right, Matt Davidson getting third base, Todd Frazier is their designated hitter, Anderson Saladino up the middle, Abreu at first, and Omar Narvaez behind the plate. Here's Robbie Grossman. Inside, ball 1. Grossman getting the start in right field. Max Kepler struggling a little bit against lefties, so Grossman gets a chance as a switch hitter and a better right-handed hitter to get some time in right field. Way out in front, and it's 1-1. Two and 1. Robbie hitting .267. But of course, with his patience at the plate, drawing 17 walks, he still has an on-base percentage of over .400. And now 3-1. And managers have always liked to do that. Put on base guys ahead of the sluggers like Sano. And Grossman takes another walk. He's aboard for Miguel Sano. And Sano, as the Twins had an off day Monday, served his suspension Tuesday, and then the weather prohibited play last night. 3 days without an at bat, and he steps to the plate celebrating his 24th birthday. All right, now you take those numbers and multiply them times 5.
Yeah, he's had 100 at bats, so you're about right there. To win the batting title, you need 502 plate appearances. Of course, guys that play the whole season
Drilled foul.
will get many more than 500 at bats, more like 600 or so plate appearances. But yep, he's 1/5 of the way through the season. He's had some kind of start.
1 strike to Sano. And fouled away. 0-2. Paraphrasing Paul Molitor, he says what's most impressive to him about Sano's start is he hasn't tried to do too much. He's taken walks. He's worked counts. He's behind in the count now, 0-2.
And most impressive to me, he's used the whole field to hit the ball against or over fences.
Up high.
One of the reasons he's been able to take those walks, Dick, is because he's waiting to see the ball a little bit longer. He's understanding that he plays on smaller ballparks than most of the rest of the guys. He can hit it out anywhere. He's not trying just to hit it 500 feet to left field. He's hitting the ball, setting up to hit the ball hard someplace. If he hits it hard enough, it'll go far enough.
Hitting .323 against lefties, but just one of his 8 home runs have come against left-handed pitching. 2-2 with Grossman at first and 1 away. A check of Grossman. Twins has a team hitting .246 this year. The American League is hitting .246, but against lefties, the Twins hitting just .230. Drilled to the left field corner. And hooking foul again.
One of the things that Holland's doing this year that has really served him well so far is he's developed a changeup. He's got a real good slider, and he's striking out a lot of guys on the slider. He's always had that pitch, but he's throwing a lot of changeups and a lot more than he ever has, and he's coming inside on right-handers more. That combination of pitching inside and then the ability to throw a changeup is a good combination.
And now a full count to Sano. Still very strikeout prone. Wouldn't think that Grossman would go here, but we'll see. You think he's going?
I think he might be here. You're right. This is a coin toss for Paul. He's strikeout prone. I think Paul thinks he can handle Holland a little bit better. He might go.
And another walk will put 2 men aboard. And Holland kind of peeks in like, where was it? Inside. Grossman walks. Now Sano walks, and here's Polanco.
Tried to come in on him, and Holland wanted it. You can see why. Very close pitch.
So now Polanco with a chance to do some damage. The Twins have had 6 different players hitting in the cleanup spot already this year. Polanco in there for the 2nd time. Chopper toward the hole out there, and the ball rolls free, and Grossman does not come home. Should have been a double play, but Abreu didn't catch the throw, and Polanco is safe, and Grossman, I don't think, saw the ball roll up the line. So the inning continues 2 away. Abreu just fanned on.
Just fanned it. He just clanked it. I think Grossman saw the ball roll away and didn't realize how far it was. And, you know, the funny thing is Abreu didn't really go after it hard after he missed it. So I think that fooled Robbie a little bit too.
Here's Bauer hitting 5th with runners on the corners and 2 gone. I'm happy to see they've called an error, but the old rule is you can see Sano going down and kind of popping up. The rule is you can't assume a double play, but that clearly is an error. It's very rarely called.
Well, I think you can't assume a double play out in the middle of the field when if the ball's booted out
and
there.
Bauer drives one to center field. A 2-out hit that'll score Grossman, and the Twins score first. Bauer's 14th run batted in on an 0-1 pitch, and Holland eventually pays the price for the walks.
Well, Joe just so good, as we know, with runners in scoring position. Always has had a terrific batting average. And it's why he's hit 4th and now 5th a lot this year. Picking up that 1 run when they really needed to get at least 1 out of this inning.
So an unearned run, and now Escobar will try to pile on here in the 1st inning. Escobar hitting just .228, but .333 is a right-handed batter, which explains why he's in the lineup. And not Kenny Vargas tonight. Helps explain it anyway.
He had 2 for 4 against Holland his last time out there.
Bounced foul behind Gene Glenn. Escobar, the designated hitter. Twins 8-4 on the road. They enter this game a couple games above the 500 mark. Didn't mean to, and he dribbles it foul between Jeff Smith and the line. 0-2. There you see the splits for Escobar. In a longer 1st inning than Derek Holland would have liked. This would be his 25th pitch. 8 foul balls have been clicked by Twins batters here in this 1st inning. 0-2 to Escobar. And the dirt smothered by Narvaez. Holland's been pretty good. An opponent batting average of just .191. And he should be off the field, except for the Abreu error. Run the count even to Escobar. A drive to left and deep. Escobar with a 3-run bomb halfway up the seats in left field. Paul Molitor, just a push-button manager, right? Getting power from Escobar as he tees off. And the Twins jump out early 4-0. That was a no-doubter.
That was a no-doubter. He climbed all over that fastball. The ball was in the middle of the plate. But this little guy right here generates an awful lot of power out of that small frame. He uses his legs so well. Drives his back leg and backside into his front leg really well. That's where that power comes from.
And now Chris Jimenez takes a strike on the outside corner. Jimenez lines up base hit to left. 3 straight hits after the error. And Narvaez out to try to talk to Holland. And it'll bring up Rosario. And Don Cooper going to have a visit on the mound with the pitcher as well.
You see right here is a great shot of him driving in his backside into his front side right there. That's where he generates an awful lot of power. Gets those legs driving and leg bat extension. The ball went a long ways.
Cooper having some words now with the home plate umpire Jerry Lane about, I'm sure, directly or indirectly, the pitch called ball 4 to Miguel Sano, because everything's blown up in Holland's face since then. Rosario, the batter, 8th man to bat this inning.
It just goes to show you, especially in the big leagues, how critical it is not to give the other team extra outs, extra pitches, extra 90-foot segments, a couple of walks there, a questionable call and an error, and the roof falls in.
Swing and a miss by Rosario. And the White Sox outfield almost playing Rosario the way they play Joe Mauer, with the center fielder Lurie Garcia way over in left center field. And if Rosario hits one right over the second base bag, he can run all night. 2 strikes, but Holland's been there a number of times already here in this first inning. Twins have now homered in 12 straight games, with Escobar's blast here in the first inning. A chopper up the line, and Abreu will tag Rosario for the 3rd out of the inning. Twins take advantage of the Abreu error and capitalize for 4 unearned runs, 3 of them coming home on Escobar's 4th home run of the year. Straight games with a home run, the longest streak the Twins have had since Torrey Hunter, Jock Jones, Corey Koski, and that crew had a longer streak in '02. Rick Renteria in his 2nd season as a manager, first in the south side of Chicago. He had 1 year with the Cubs. The Menards batting order for the White Sox: Melky Cabrera, then Tyler Saladino, Jose Abreu, Avisail Garcia, Todd Frazier, Matt Davidson, Tim Anderson, Omar Narvaez, and Lurie Garcia.
Phil Hughes on the mound for the Twins has pitched very, very well this year, capped off by his last start against the Red Sox, where he was terrific. 6 innings plus, only 1 run in that exciting Friday night victory. Phil didn't get the win, but he has pitched really, really well and got a lot of run support.
And a pitch at the belt, strike 1. 6 prior starts this year against 6 different opponents. On the ground, hit right to the shortstop Polanco, and quick first out here in the first inning. So starting tonight, teams will get their 2nd look at Phil Hughes, and so there'll be Some interest as to how teams fare against him now that he's reinvented himself, to use our term, not his. Here's the Northland Ford defense for the Twins. Rosario, Buxton, Grossman in the outfield. Sano, Polanco, Dozier, Mauer, the infielders. Jimenez behind the plate. Phil is a different type of pitcher than he was in his first year with the Minnesota Twins, using more off-speed pitches, and so we'll see whether the White Sox have any better success against him. One thing remains the same: Phil Hughes is a strike thrower.
He's going to throw strikes. That's right. And the reinvention, if you will, of Phil Hughes has been a result of the league catching up with the idea that he's a strike thrower, a fastball thrower, and he doesn't have the same velocity he had when he first came to the Twins. He was consistently 92, 93, sometimes 94, and he's got a very sneaky delivery, and so the ball gets on hitters more quickly. They don't react as well to his fastballs as they do to others, and he was able to get away when he was at 93, 94 with high fastballs. At 89, 90, you're not going to be able to do that unless you put slower stuff in hitters' minds, and that's what he's been able to do.
Big swing by Saladino, 2-2.
He's come up with his curveball, which he's always had. He's throwing more slowly, and he's come up with a changeup. He's getting that. Those two slower pitches in hitters' minds, and as a result, now his 90-mile-an-hour fastball, his 89 or 90-mile-an-hour fastball, still sneaky. He's throwing by guys, and so, in short, he's just pitching. He's become, at least through these first starts, a better pitcher, I think, than he ever has been.
Back.
There's that slow curveball there.
One thing we've seen Phil do, the ability to do it, and the execution, is limit damage, and that was never more evident than in his first start against the White Sox in the very first inning. They got 3 hits in the first 4 at bats and a run, and it looked like it was going to be the start of a very long day for Phil. Fastball up and in at 90, and that got Saladino's attention. And then Phil gave up just the 1 run, and then in the remaining 5 innings gave up just 3 more hits and no more runs allowed.
He was bailed out big time by a couple of sensational plays by his center fielder, Byron Buxton, but you're right, he shut him down after that first inning.
And Saladino swings through, a pitch up and away, 2 down. Let's go to Audra Martin.
Well, guys, it's time for our Car Soup Scoop from the clubhouse. Paul Molitor says the most impressive thing about Byron Buxton's turnaround lately is his comfort at the plate. He says that no longer are you worried about seeing those jitters or those nerves from Byron Buxton. Instead, you can see how much he's starting to trust himself. And despite an impressive week, Kenny Vargas is not in the lineup. Paul Molitor said it was a very tough decision, but simply he just hasn't had a lot of opportunities from the right side of the plate and hasn't been as strong from that side. Plus, he liked Escobar's approach last time out versus Holland. And the decision on Saturday's starter should come tonight after the game. Nick Tepesch in the bullpen tonight as protection, but he's still being considered along with Jose Barrios for that start on Saturday. Guys.
Thank you, Audra. And then Paul did mention that the newly acquired pitcher for the Twins, Adam Wilk, has been starting, made 1 start with the Mets, and the rest of the starts for Frank Viola for the Las Vegas team. He just mentioned his name also as a candidate, but the sense you get, swing and a miss, is that it will be either Tepesch or Barrios. And Phil Hughes has a very quick 1-2-3 bottom of the first. Absolutely. And Byron Buxton taking strike one from Derek Holland, and now a ball, 1-1. Buxton with 3 hits here on Tuesday night. 1 to each field, left, center, and right, in that order for that matter. Way out in front. 79-mile-per-hour off-speed pitch, 1-2. .32 pitches for Holland in the first. He could use a quick inning like the one Phil Hughes just had. Narvaez wants a high fastball, and it turns Buxton away. 2-2.
Talked about Holland pitching right-hand hitters inside more often than he has in the past. That pitch right there sets up something slow, maybe a changeup down and away, or the breaking ball down there.
Off the end of the bat and a foot race, and Holland did not get there. Buxton with a head-first slide got a base hit, and Holland shakes his head, and the White Sox may challenge it. Right now, Buxton's got an infield hit, hitting it right off the end of the bat. Paul Molitor, of course, one of the preeminent base runners of his time, and he said this is one of the few times he recommends sliding in head first when the pitcher is converging to the bag, but you can see it's a risky play. Holland could very easily have stepped on Buxton's fingers. They're going to challenge it, and I think it's going to get overturned.
And if you watch when Byron Buxton's hand hits the bag, watch how he has to recoil. He's going in hard, and now he hits hard. His hand goes back, shoulder, elbow. That's why I don't like it. If I thought you were faster, if you really were faster sliding, then that might be worth the effort for me. But I disagree with Paul in that deal. You know, if you're faster, you see Holland's foot looks like he just beats Buxton to the bag, and that will probably be overturned. But boy, this play, it doesn't make sense to me, because if you really got to your destination faster with the dive, you'd see Usain Bolt diving at the tape. I just don't see the future, the advantage there.
Paul's point is you've got a convergence of 2 people at first base, and while it's a risky play and you might get there a split second later, when you do slide on a play like that, you're avoiding, a head-on collision with the pitcher.
If a pitcher runs that play right, he should go more diagonally to the line first and then come up the line as he receives the throw. So, yeah, I can see what Paul is saying, but for me, you get there faster running and you don't have the risk of injury. I don't like it.
1-0 to Brian Dozier with Buxton ruled out. Holland, the left-hander, I think was more interested in just running to the bag, getting there as he could. Dozier with a high drive to left field. It is deep and gone. Brian Dozier got a high pitch and hammered it to left, and it's 5-0.
There aren't a lot of players in the league that are good high ball hitters. Brian Dozier is one of those guys. Highly recommended not to throw him a high fastball.
The Twins go deep twice early against Holland. There's the high fastball with an almost predictable result.
He likes it up there. He's got such great bat angle on the high pitches. Unlike so many people whose bat comes from underneath the ball a little bit, Brian can get the big end of the bat on top of that baseball, and that's why he's so good at it.
Driven hard to center field. Garcia back near the edge of the track makes the catch for out number 2. With Grossman hitting one about 380 feet from home plate. And that'll bring up Sano. 19 career home runs against Chicago. Of course, teams play each other 19 times a year, but Holland has been pretty good in terms of not giving up hits. Twins have already touched him for 4 hits and 5 runs. Here is Sano, drew a walk on a disputed pitch, at least Holland disputed the location of the 3-2 pitch. And strike at the knees.
Holland didn't dispute the location. He was pretty sure that it was a strike.
And dribbled foul 0-2. Two strikes to Miguel Sano. And a ball. For Holland, just the 4th and 5th home runs allowed this year. And he has yielded 2 of them to the first 10 batters tonight.
Well, it's one thing to try to pitch inside, but you have to be able to get it in there. And if your idea was to throw a fastball inside, you leave it out over the plate, especially to somebody like Brian Dozier and to some degree Eduardo Escobar.
High fly to right field and deep. Garcia going back, and Sano has a home run into the Twins bullpen, and it's 6-0. Happy birthday, Miguel Sano.
Every time he does that, every time he hits a home run from center field around to right field, I'm just so happy for him, because it's just burying in there in his mind that he can do that. Just wait and to have a good look at the ball, because you've got too much strength. Yeah, he can't believe it. Well, believe it with this young man. That young man right there, believe it. A lot of people are going to become believers.
Inside to Polanco. The Twins' 4-run first was dependent on a double play grounder, not turned into a double play. Polanco lifts it high and deep to center, and Garcia on the warning track makes the catch. Twins making a lot of noise against Derek Holland. 2 more home runs in the second. 6-0 Twins lead. Hector Santiago pitched well here 2 nights ago. He'll be our guest when we come back. In 5 days, Miguel Sano hadn't played a game in 3 days. They both have already homered in the game tonight. And the Twins have jumped out in front 6-0. Abisail Garcia will lead off the second for Chicago. And you take Garcia's numbers and you multiply those times 5, and you have a breakout season. Something the White Sox have been waiting for.
And he's only 25 years old. He had a chance to be a terrific hitter, a lot of talent.
And for Garcia, yeah, about 1,500 at bats it took for things to click this year for him. For Aaron Hicks in New York, it looks like maybe 1,200 at bats have let Aaron figure some things out. 2 hopper to Sano. Man, can he throw the ball? 1 down. 4 quick outs for Phil Hughes.
1,200 to 1,500. That's about right, I would say, depending on the player. Although that guy right there that just showed off the cannon for an arm might have gotten it figured out a little bit sooner than that.
Cut that in half, maybe. Here's Todd Frazier.
But you know, he'll keep learning, and you do in this game with that activity, that endeavor, that hitting a baseball. You just keep learning as long as you play the game. The last game you ever play, you will learn something else about hitting. It's the way the nature of that business.
Up and away, ball 1 to Frazier. Just 1 for 9 against Phil Hughes. Avisail Garcia just 1 for 15 now against Phil Hughes, who has the comfort now of a 6-0 lead. Checked his swing, 2-0.
Well, he's thrown a lot of changeups already, and they've all been really good ones. He got away with the first one he threw, high changeup to Melky Cabrera, and got a ground ball short out of it. After that, since then, having gotten 4 outs, he's thrown an awful lot of changeups for facing 4 hitters.
You know, Frazier actually accidentally hit Jimenez with his bat and his backswing. Swing and a miss, 2-1. Jimenez and Frazier both enjoying a moment. Hit him right in the mask.
He said something to him that made Frazier laugh.
And now up, it's 3-1. Davidson will follow. And a rare walk by Phil Hughes, and Frazier will go to first.
It was pretty close too. Just missed the outside corner.
Phil now has issued 7 walks on the year. Walked a couple in his start against Boston. Here's Matt Davidson getting the start at third base with Frazier, the designated hitter. First pitch strike. Hughes pitching from the stretch for the first time. Hughes has had so far just 1 ground ball double play. Chases some high heat. 0-2. You've talked about this before. Hughes 89 miles per hour, that fastball. But it looked like it ate up Davidson. Why?
There's something about Phil's delivery that has always been sneaky. His fastball gets on hitters more quickly than the hitters think it's going to get there. It was that way at 94. And now that he's throwing 90, it's that way again because he's throwing a lot of that. He's learned to throw curveballs and changeups in spots where hitters have to respect the slower stuff. They're waiting just a little bit longer, and then that sneaky fastball at 90 sneaks by.
1-2 to Davidson.
When you're a hitter, sometimes you see the ball really, really well against a pitcher, and sometimes, for some reason, guy's delivery fools you.
Breaking ball missing, and it's 2-2.
I'm talking just on regular fastball. Some guys fastball, boy, it just seems like you see it really, really well all the way out of his hand to your bat. The speed is exactly what you expect. With Phil, for some reason, I don't know what it is, but he's got something in his delivery or his short arm flick of a motion that he has or something. And the result is that the ball gets on hitters more quickly than they expect.
Popped up right side, and Mauer near the foul line. Makes a foul ball catch, 2 away. Well, Phil, and I don't know if he's always done this, but just kind of noticed he does throw across his body a little bit. And you can see on the mound where his front foot lands, and he's not quite as severe as Justin Haley is of the Twins, a Rule 5 reliever, but he does step across his body a little bit.
He steps across his body, and then he what we call short arms the ball, and so the ball comes flicking out of his shoulder, from behind his shoulder, where you don't really see it. This will be a good look at it right here. He steps across his body and then just flicks the ball up there. And I just don't think hitters, as we look at straight on as if your hitter, step across the body, and then you don't see an awful lot of arm until very late in his delivery. I noticed that when he was with the Yankees. He topped out at 95 miles an hour. He'd be throwing a belt high down the middle, and guys were swinging and missing. And I thought, what is it about this guy?
Missing inside 1-1.
But what I think is so impressive is that he's lost 3 or 4 miles an hour, and if you're sneaky or not, 89 or 90, you should not be able to throw the ball, well, you wouldn't think, by a hitter up in the strike zone. But he's still doing it, and he's doing it because, as I mentioned earlier, he's being really good with curveballs and changeups to set up the higher pitches. There's another good changeup there, just off the plate.
2-1. Backhanded by Polanco, goes a short way. 1-out walk does no damage. Couple of scoreless, hitless innings for Phil Hughes. Chicago White Sox a few years ago pitched again against them on Tuesday night, and again pitched very well against them.
He sure did. He had a real good assortment of pitches. He'll tell you he has about 6 or 7. 3 of them, the main 3, fastball, breaking ball, changeup, have been very, very effective.
And Hector nice enough to take time out of his Thursday evening to join us. Hector, nice job the other day. For some reason, you always seem to pitch awfully well against the White Sox. Why is that?
I don't know, man. Just come out here and try to throw strikes and pound the zone and hopefully hope for the best. And so far in my career, it's been a good place to pitch for me.
You know, Hector, this is Roy. You talk about pounding the strike zone, which you have done so well this year, and not just same spot in the strike zone. One of the things that I think makes you really effective is your ability or your tendency to pound the zone all over the zone. Hitters don't look like they get comfortable. Down and away, up and in, up and away, down and in. You're throwing strikes all over the place with that fastball.
Yeah, you know, you go into a game, you just want to throw strike one. You want to get, you know, guys out in 4 pitches. And for me, it's, you know, like you said, I've been pounding the zone because my pitch count's been down. But, you know, I'm still effectively wild. You know, and the other night I went into the 7th with 80+ pitches and still had 5 walks, though. You know, but that just, I think that's a good thing. Like you said, you know, I'm going to go down and in. I'm going to miss up and away. I'm going to try to go down and in. I'm going to miss down and away. So I think that's a good thing for me because guys can't sit one-sided. It's not just one side of the plate that I'm using. I'm using the entire strike zone.
Right. You said it. I've used that exact term, that you're effectively wild around the strike zone. It's really hard for hitters. We're watching you right now putting hitters away all over the strike zone. It's hard for hitters to get any kind of rhythm with you, it seems to me like.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's been, you know, over my career and more a lot this year, just because I've been throwing my breaking balls for strikes. I've been throwing my changeup really well for strikes. I bounce it when I need to, and fastball's been in the zone all over the place, you know, kind of up, down, in, out. So I've been using the entire strike zone for sure.
See Hector's numbers against the White Sox. They traded him to the Angels. The Angels traded him to the Twins after an incredible month of July last year. Hector, you had a tremendous final month in an Angel uniform, and I'm wondering whether you feel as good right now as you obviously did through the month of July in terms of being able to pinpoint your pitches and mix things up.
Yeah, I think I feel a lot better now. I mean, I'm throwing everything for strikes. In Anaheim, that, you know, in that month of July was a lot of fastball, really good fastball command. I was anywhere from 90 to 95, and I knew where it was going. I could move it all over the place. But I didn't have my curveball working, my slider working, my screwball, and my changeup working. Right now, I think I have all 5 pitches where, and it doesn't matter what the count is. I think he can put down those fingers, and I can throw anything for a strike.
1-2 to Eduardo Escobar. Another foul. You mentioned the screwball. How often do you throw that? Say you got 100 pitches in a ball game. How many screwballs will you throw?
Probably 10 to 12. You know, around there, 8 to 12, somewhere around there. It depends on the count. You know, I mean, if I'm ahead in the count, 1-2, you know, maybe 2-2. I definitely use an 0-2 for sure. Yeah, I mean, it just depends on the count, the hitter, you know, what I've thrown leading up to that pitch. But yeah, about 12 times. I know I threw it to these guys maybe like 15 times the other night.
Yeah, primarily to right-hand hitters, I would imagine, and primarily as a potential strikeout pitch with 2 strikes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is that a difficult pitch to pick up and master?
It is.
Because you don't see it very often anymore.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, you know, because it comes with not only, you know, with what you're doing with your arm and your hand. Sometimes you get, you know, you pull it a little bit and you leave that pitch over the middle plate. That's when you get hurt. And I went through that for a while, you know, when I was just starting to learn it and just starting to master it. And then you get to some point in your career where you understand, all right, well, if I'm throwing this pitch, I can't miss over the plate because it can be a pitch that hurts you. And it takes a little bit of time. You know, you have to, you know, get over that fear of, you know, what you're doing with your arm and your hand. You're really pronating, you know, your arm a lot more than what you would do on your changeup or anything else you're throwing. So it took me a little bit of time to get confident and be able to say, all right, guys, I'm throwing a screwball. But you know, over time, I think it's been an effective pitch. It's you know, a lot of people call it a screwball. Some people call it a super change. I mean, it bottoms out with like about 6 mile/hour difference than my changeup.
Now Jimenez takes inside.
Well, with your fastball moving all over the strike zone the way it does, I got to believe that screwball is really, really an effective pitch. If I'm a right-hand hitter and I'm concerned about where your fastball is going, I see that pitch come out of your hand looking like something straight. Then
Behind the third base bag, and Anderson in foul ground makes
all of a sudden that thing's fading away. That's a nasty pitch.
Yeah, for sure. Especially with with these guys knowing that I do pound right-handers in a lot, and then they're looking maybe something in, or you know, maybe a straight changeup, and I, you know, really turn that over and it bottoms out on the outside corner. That's why it's such an effective pitch.
Hector, thanks for the time and good luck the rest of the way, man.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Eric Holland is a 1-2-3 third.
Television broadcasts when you visit the Target Field press box and spend an inning in the TV booth with Dick, Bert, and the Fox Sports North broadcast crew. The winner of this package will also receive 2 tickets to that day's Twins game. Game dates and ticket locations are subject to availability. Bidding begins at $500 for this opportunity.
Secrets. I didn't know we kept any secrets from our viewers. I might bid on it just to find out what our secrets are. Or Narvaez will lead things off in the third for Chicago. He takes the first pitch strike from Phil Hughes. Rounder to short. Polanco has it. Fires to Mauer. 1 away. As long as we're ahead of the radio experience, I'll sleep happily tonight, peacefully tonight. $900. And so we encourage the bidding because all the money is going to the community fund. And just as a personal goal, I hope we get a higher bid than the radio.
Well, as long as the TV broadcast experience is outdoing the radio experience, then the world is spinning on its axis.
That's
correct.
Right. Yeah, you can spend an inning with those guys, or you can spend an inning with us. One down. Here's Lurie Garcia, number 9 batter for the White Sox. And strike one. Hey, we mentioned it's Miguel Sano's birthday today, number 24. We want to pass along birthday wishes to Mimi Smith. It is her birthday, too. 90 years old today. One of the most loyal Twins fans we have in the Fargo area. So happy birthday, Mimi. Garcia retired, 2 quick outs, and a almost perfect first trip through the White Sox batting order.
And 2 exact same pitch sequences to those 2 hitters. Drop a slow curveball in for a strike, and then throw that fastball and jam the hitter, get a ground ball.
And this is one thing I've wondered in just one game, but it seems to me we're getting more ground ball outs with Phil on the mound than we used to, and as he has evolved as a pitcher to more of an off-speed type pitcher, maybe his reputation of being a fly ball pitcher won't be so pronounced either.
I think that will definitely be the case. He's going to get some ground balls on breaking balls. He's going to get some ground balls on lower fastballs. He's pitching a little bit lower in the zone than he used to, so he'll get some of those.
You can see almost even up ground balls and fly balls. Cracked foul line just over the edge of the Chicago dugout. Cabrera bounced out to short his first time up.
The other thing Phil's starting to work in now is a sinking fastball, a little running 2-seam fastball, one that breaks from his left to his right. He'll get ground balls on that pitch as well.
On the ground, Mauer backhanding it nicely, flipping to Hughes, and how about that? 3 ground ball outs in the 3rd inning. 3 no-hit innings for Phil Hughes. And to seduce, I'll go ahead and use that word. They're trying to seduce our viewers into bidding higher for the radio broadcast by letting them be part of the broadcast and interviewing the Twins player. That's how desperate they are over on the radio side to try to get a higher bid than the TV experience.
It's despicable.
1-0 to Eddie Rosario. The Twins have jumped on Derek Holland. He only has had given up 3 home runs prior to this start. The Twins have hit 3 against him tonight. Outside 2-0. He had a good 1-2-3 third inning, including a couple of strikeouts. Holland threw 32 pitches in the first inning. Phil Hughes so far tonight has thrown 35. There's a strike on the outside corner, 2-1. Holland signed to just a 1-year deal. Poke to center. And Garcia retreating to straightaway center field makes the catch. All right, let's hear from Corey Provis, the radio play-by-play guy.
It's simple. It's about choices. It's about the experience. The experience in the TV booth, what are you going to do? You're going to hear a story from the Duke about how he threw a no-hitter at Staples High School against some central Minnesota school that nobody cares about. Or Bert's going to tell you how to say goodnight in Dutch. Boring. Radio, experience the Cupertino kid. What it was like to be a carny. What it was like to pick apples in Washington. What it was like to be with gypsies and live with gypsies. And maybe a tale for me about walking the catwalk as a TJ Maxx kid model. That's experience. Vote Duke. Vote Dazzle.
Wow. All right, it's on. It's on.
And is there any place in central Minnesota that we don't care about? I care about all.
I care about
all those
everyone.
Places.
Everyone throughout Twins territory. And if the radio guys don't care about you, well then maybe you don't want to bid on their package. Here's a high pop-up up near the Seagulls down the left field line, and Anderson will give way to Melky Cabrera, 2 away. I'll tell you what, and I've been in the radio booth, okay, so that's why I'm thinking the TV booth experience is going to be much better for Twins fans. We keep things kind of tight in the TV booth. We make an effort to keep things clean, sanitary, and on that basis alone, I think fans would much rather be in the TV booth than the radio booth. I've been in the radio booth.
And I was a teammate of Dan Gladden's.
And Bert Blyleven, so I don't know that we want to talk about that too much. Here's Dozier, homer to left, his last time up. And a dribbler foul. 0-2. We will mop the floor of the booth before our winning bid arrival. It'll be spick and span.
Well, anybody that comes in and does an appearance with us here in the TV booth, we get to sit right next to us, look at these monitors that we're looking at as we also look at the field, and see exactly what it is that we're talking about in real time. Be able to point to things on the telestrator, all kinds of baseball analysis in real time on television. How could you not want to do that?
And then I'm kind of the closer on this deal. At least I consider myself the closer on this deal. For the inning you're up in the booth, all the hot dogs you can eat.
Why haven't you ever made that deal to me? I mean, I'm your partner.
Yeah. Well, we just go back to Peg's Cafe, and, which is behind our booth. And we'll just set you up with all the hot dogs, all the relish, whatever you like to put on them. Up and away, 2-2. We've got to have a higher bid than the radio experience. Have to. 6 in a row set down by Holland. Grossman hoping for a chance here in the 4th.
That was absolute shameless self-promotion by Provis. Shameless.
And all the interesting stories, he promised be interesting if any of them were true. Anybody could make up stories.
That's right.
That,
We've got
what,
stuff.
We've
got stuff that's true.
Yeah, it's not as interesting as the stuff he's talked about. I've not been a TJ Maxx runway model like Corey claims he was. And now Dozier takes a walk. And that'll get Grossman to the plate with 2 away. Grossman with a walk and a run scored in the 4-run first inning. Then he blistered one to center field, but it was caught by Garcia. Dodger's got a healing ankle. I don't think the Twins with a 6-0 lead would be too anxious to have him take off here.
I'd be pretty sure of that.
1-0 to Grossman.
It's his left ankle, and that's normally the foot that you hit the bag with as you make your turns around the base paths too. That's a bit of
a pretty well hit ball.
Bit of a
right
vulnerability
field.
too.
Garcia with the catch. You're watching Twins baseball, presented by State Farm. Chevrolet, the #1 selling brand in the Twin Cities. And by State Farm. Combine auto and renters and see how much money you can save. 6-0. Twins trying to make it a 2-game sweep here in Chicago. Head to Cleveland for a weekend series. It should be interesting. There's Tyler Saladino to lead off the 4th against Phil Hughes. Just missing down on away ball 1. Saladino struck out on a fastball tailing away from him back in the 1st inning. And now up high, 2-0. And Hughes had a good outing, maybe his best outing against the White Sox in his first start of the year. Gave up 3 singles and a run on the 1st, and then pretty much shut down the White Sox for the balance of his outing, and has done so through 3 innings again here tonight. 2-1. Saladino, Abreu, and Garcia. And up and in, 3-1. The only base runner for the White Sox, Todd Frazier, drew a 1-out walk in the 2nd. '40th pitch of the night for Hughes. A foul, 3-2.
Phil's always been economical with pitches, as we've said. He is a strike thrower. There's no question about that. But I just believe that now with the way he's pitching, using fastball as well as curveball and changeup, he's just pitching so much better.
Leadoff walk. And that'll bring up Abreu with a man aboard. Toyota will get us caught up with the Twins doing a lot of damage early.
Well, Eduardo Escobar followed a couple walks and an error that allowed him to get to the plate by drilling a home run in the seats. Brian Dozier got a high fastball. He knows what to do with that. And then this 2-strike curveball, you also know waits on, muscles the ball over the right field fence like few people other than he can do. Phil Hughes, in the meantime, has been very, very good. Economical with 3 pitches thrown for strikes. And there's a strike to Jose Abreu for strike 1. I almost would have bet that would have been a fastball after Phil went curveball, changeup, curveball, 3 straight pitches to strike out Abreu in the first inning. Now come back in, show him fastball just to make sure he's not leaning out there looking slow.
Now a breaking ball missing inside 1-1. Given what we showed you last inning and how Phil Hughes has gotten just about 1 ground ball for every fly ball out, it seems odd that he would have had just 1 ground ball double play so far this year in the 6 prior starts. See if he can get one here. Hooked foul. Hit hard, but foul. And it's 1-2.
Got it away with another change up there. He's made good pitches with them. Most of the time they've been down. That one was up in Abreu's wheelhouse. He was lucky that Abreu hit it foul. Go back in with a fastball. Nope. Phil didn't want it. Phil wanted curveball or something away.
Nods his head like, okay, I know what you want. Still wasn't it. And they'll chat about it between the mound and home plate. Earlier this year, the Twins took 2 out of 3 here in Chicago, and the White Sox came to Minnesota and took 2 out of 3. Twins have won all 5 with the Royals. Took 1 out of 3 with Detroit. The only team they haven't beaten this year, the Indians, and they'll have a chance to do something about that this weekend. 1-2. Down the line, but foul again. Four in the first, 2 in the second for the Twins.
Fastball in. I know Jimenez wants to show him at least 1 fastball in there inside. I think they really want to get Abreu out with slow stuff away, but Jimenez knows that you have to, a good hitter like Abreu, you have to make him think he's got a chance of getting some fastballs inside, or he'll be hanging out over the plate. So they're going to, well, now Phil's changed back to the curveball. Keep it down.
Breaking ball missed the corner, and it's 2-2. Abreu's been on a good RBI run over the last couple of weeks. He was trying to pitch around his leadoff walk here in the 4th.
3 straight pitches Jimenez has tried to go in with a fastball. Looks like Phil's finally going to agree.
He missed with the fastball. Now full count.
Really good try. He would have tied him up with that pitch had it been on the corner. That's a good try. All those slow stuff, and then comes in off the plate. Even 3-2, I wouldn't be surprised if he throws him something softer.
Dozen pitches already this inning for Phil Hughes.
This looks like it might be a cutter on the outside.
Saladino goes, and the pitch skied to right center field. Buxton under it, makes the catch one away. That'll bring up Garcia. Garcia with a ground ball to third his first time out. Just 1 for 15 in his matchups against Phil Hughes. Jimenez to the mound to get thoughts exchanged with his pitcher.
Yeah, they're trying to get on the same page here. These two guys here, Rayo and Garcia, are the guys they don't want to let beat them. And so Jimenez wants to be exactly clear with how they want to pitch these two guys, especially. Garcia, a good low ball hitter. So this is high fastballs, inside fastballs, and then breaking balls and changeups down.
Down and away, ball 1. Phil's strike percentage has taken a hit this inning. 49 pitches, 29 strikes. One and 0. Now fouled over the Twins dugout.
Trying to go away with that fastball and left it inside. I don't think that's a bad miss at all, especially against Garcia. I think you have to throw the ball in under his hands. That's right where that was. He got tied up there a little bit. That's not only a good pitch to get him out, but a good pitch to set up other pitches away, especially the breaking ball.
Another foul. If Hughes and the Twins win here tonight, the starting rotation will have picked up 14 wins this year from 3 different guys, Irvin Santana, Hector Santiago, and Phil Hughes. They would have all 14 wins. Last year, the Twins had 11 different pitchers start a game, and those 11 starters combined to win 36 ball games. And the Twins trying to get almost halfway to that total here in the season's first month and a half, with no wins from Kyle Gibson, who's now down in Rochester, and the other pitchers who've made starts. Nick Tempish made a start. 1-2 to Garcia. And I think Phil Hughes thought he had the knees.
Yeah, I think he fooled the umpire there. It'll be interesting to see where that pitch was exactly. Looked to me like he caught the inside. Phil likes to throw a cutter, what we call a front door cutter, and he did have the plate. He thought he had it. It was exactly the pitch he wanted. Started in and cut it back in onto the inside corner. It fooled Garcia. I think it fooled the umpire a little bit.
And now 2-2. Breaking ball fouled against Garcia. Well, the one thing you need to do, and Holland's been around almost as long as Phil Hughes has, you got to make sure you followed up, continue to make good pitches. When Holland didn't get the call that he thought he should have, and our graphic showed that he should have struck out Sano looking in the first inning, well, then all sorts of unsightly pitches followed and ended up with a 4 spot up on the board.
Happens a lot. You see a guy not quite able to control his emotions or lose his focus based on a call that goes against him. And too many things happening too quickly up here to let those things get in the way of your performance. You got to get right back in the deal.
And a drive into the left field corner. It's fair. And Hughes will back up home plate. And Garcia, instead of striking out, has a double. Second and third, first White Sox hit of the night. One away for Todd Frazier.
This ball looked like a cutter. Yep, it was a cut fastball, stayed right in the middle of the plate. And if you're going to throw a cutter, you really have to throw it in a situation where you can afford to be on the corners with it. That cutter in the middle of the plate gets hit really, really hard. It's just like a hitter sees it like a fastball, and it's just a slower fastball. Allows him to get his arms fully extended there in the middle of the plate.
Second and third, Twins leading by 6. He'll play the infield back. In fact, just one infielder on the right side of the infield, and that is Mauer. Frazier walked his first time up. Inside ball 1. Hughes was very efficient through 3 innings, but now he's been pitching from behind in a lot of these plate appearances here on the 4th, and he falls behind Frazier quickly. Foul 1-1. He's thrown 21 pitches this inning alone. 7 pitches, getting 3 ground ball outs in the 3rd.
Well, he switched his game plan just a little bit. We saw a lot of breaking balls and changeups the first 3 innings, and this inning has been fastball and cutter a lot, which is kind of the old style Phil Hughes.
Fly ball, right center field. Buxton over. There's the catch. He drops the ball. And the throw coming to Mauer. Buxton with an error. And instead of there being 2 outs now, 1st and 3rd and a run in and only 1 out. That happened late in spring training where Byron came in on a ball, and in spring training, at least, it looked like he took his eye off the ball, and he may have done the same thing here.
Setting up to try to make a difficult throw to the plate, and he just looks away just a little bit. Same exact thing happened to Jorge Polanco against the Red Sox when he took his eye off the ball just a little, hurry his throw to second, and the ball moves on you just a little bit when you take your eyes off the ball. And the ball hit Polanco in the heel of the glove and couldn't stick, and the same hit Buxton in the heel of the glove exactly the same way. Pitching coach Neil Allen going out to do just exactly what you're talking about, Dick. Make sure that his pitcher gets his mind right after really what turns out to be an astonishing drop of a fly ball by a great center fielder.
Jerry Lane, after the visit with Neil Allen broke up, lingered on the mound for a little bit. We can speculate what that exchange might have been about, but Phil Hughes has thought that he had struck out Garcia and instead yielded a double. Thought that he had the second out, and Buxton dropped the ball. Task here is to make sure this inning doesn't mushroom into anything like the 4-run first the Twins put on the board after the Abreu error for Chicago.
Right. Neil Allen, pitching coach, I'm sure went out there and said, hey, you're pitching really, really well. You've got nothing but ground balls and fly balls. They've only hit 1 ball hard off of you. Get right back into your competition against this hitter right here, right now. Get it right back.
And Davidson takes outside, ball 1. Davidson fouled out to Mauer in the 2nd inning.
Key in this situation with a 6-1 lead is really, really focus on the hitter. You're right, Dick. Just no big innings. Even if that runner on third scores, you still have a 4-run lead.
Big swing and a miss at the fastball, 1-1. And earlier we complimented Hughes on his ability, knack, for eliminating a big inning and doing some damage control, and he came away with a belt-high fastball there.
Well, there's that sneaky fastball, 89 miles an hour, belt high or stomach high. I think the hitter might tee off on that, and he was late.
Well-placed ground ball could limit the damage to just 1 run here in this awkward 4th inning. Good job by Jimenez keeping the double play in order. 2-1.
Both Twins catchers are very good at this. Nice block there by Jimenez.
By the way, credit Frazier with a sacrifice fly. And the fly ball dropped by Buxton, so no at bat for Frazier. He gets credit for a run batted in, and he's at first because of the error. 2-1 to Davidson. Sharply hit. Dozier knocks it down. They get the force there. Another run will score. But a nice knockdown by Dozier on a rocket headed to center field. Davidson will get a run batted in, reaching on a fielder's choice.
Well, this ball was scalded. Low fastball and just a one-hop smash, and Bryant does a great job of knocking it down and knocking it down where he can get back to it and get it out there. Very nice play. That was a tough hop. The ball bounced very close to him. It was hit hard and was skipped on him a little bit.
Did the umpire screen him a little bit too?
Might have.
Here's Tim Anderson, and uses on the verge perhaps of limiting the damage to one earned and one unearned run here in the fourth. Not yet. Down the line, a base hit. Davidson will round second, head to third. Here's the throw, and he's out by 15 feet. Eddie Rosario playing catch with Miguel Sano, and Davidson runs the White Sox out of a bigger inning. Accurate arm and throwing from different positions, not just when he's charging on a ground ball.
He looks like an infielder out there an awful lot of the time. You're absolutely right. He's able to spin around, twist around, throw from different positions. This one was just a no-brainer for Eddie Rosario to throw out Davidson there. One of the best things that Eddie does is get to the ball quickly when it's hit, and that oftentimes shortens up the distance that he has to, for which he has to throw, and shortens the time the runner has to get to the base.
Inside to Miguel Sano. What impressed me is it looked to me that Rosario retrieved the ball and looked towards second base.
He was going to throw second, yep.
And then realized, wait, I can get this guy. And he threw it to the bag and
threw a strike.
And threw a strike.
Yep. Yeah, he was going to throw to second to keep the that batter runner off of second base, keep him on first, and realized that he had easy ability to throw the runner who was making a mistake there, big mistake.
Now 3-0 to Sano, and if Holland ever wanted to have a nice quick 1-2-3 inning, it would be after his team put together a bit of a rally to at least to get a couple of points on the board. But it's 3-0 now to Sano. Takes a 4-pitch walk. And again, getting back to what Paul Molitor said, I was wondering out loud to Paul how Sano would react to not having swung a bat in 3 days. And if you don't know anything else about Miguel Sano, you should know he loves to hit. So he hadn't swung a bat in 3 days. And how would he react to that here tonight? Well, 2 walks and a home run, and the home run might be, well, he did pull a couple of balls foul in that first at bat, but he's got 2 walks and a home run here tonight. Here's Polanco. Polanco reached on a fielder's choice, should have been an inning-ending double play in the first, and then he had a warning track fly ball to straightaway center in the second. 1 strike to Polanco. And now a ball. It is interesting, isn't it? The Twins have played 30 games. This is number 31, and they've had 6 different cleanup hitters. Mauer, the most common cleanup hitter, he's hit there 14 times. Then Sano 5 times. Kenny Vargas 4 times. Grossman 4 times. And Polanco one prior time before tonight's game.
If you think about it, there really aren't very many spots in a 1 through 9 lineup where Paul Molitor can point to one of those spots and say, yep, I've got a prototypical guy there. You've got a prototypical leadoff hitter? Well, not exactly. They don't have a... Miguel Sano could be either a great 3rd or 4th hitter, but after that, that's about it. There's not just a natural spot yet.
And the missing,
a lot of these guys.
Right, the missing player was Max Kepler. He's hit cleanup 2 times, right. So that brings the total to 30 prior to tonight's game.
This makes me cringe. I did this. Oh man, that looks like he went
off the back leg.
You don't see that very often.
1-2 the count.
My shin bones are just starting now to regenerate. They were like paper mache for about the first 10 years after I retired.
The fastball zips inside 2-2. With Mauer on deck. Hard to center again, but Garcia with the catch. Polanco just blistered 2 balls to center field for 2 outs. And let's go to Audra Martin.
Guys, it's time to take a look at today's showstopper. Quite an afternoon for Boston's Mookie Betts. Red Sox and Brewers tied at 1 in the 9th until Betts just unloads a monster 3-run shot to left. The Sox avoid the sweep with the 4-1 win, and Betts continues to be red hot. 9 RBI, a .455 average over the last 5 games for Betts. Not a bad week, guys.
No, and unfortunately, Audra, that 5-game streak that he is on started Target Field.
Got him going pretty well.
Here's Mauer. Drove in the first run with a single in the first, then was called out on strikes, and now he takes ball 1 inside. One and 0 to Mauer. And now a strike on the outside corner. Molitor saying before the game today he's really encouraged with some of the at-bats Joe has had. Seen him get called out on strikes a couple of times this week on pitches that looked like they were well off the plate, including Holland's fastball, his most recent time up. 2-1.
You look at how the outfield has swung around on Joe. It's fairly typical, but I mean, we've seen Joe hit a lot of balls, ground balls or line drives up the middle. If he would happen to hit one right back through the middle, I just wonder how long it would take those guys to get there. That's a big shift.
It looked very similar to the pitch that Joe was rung up on in the 3rd inning. 2-2. And we've seen Joe pull the ball. Got an off-speed pitch from Mike Pelfrey the other night here and hooked it into the right field corner.
Well, this was that alignment there tells me if I'm Joe, I mean, they're just not going to throw me.
Right.
How can they throw me a breaking ball? I mean, he's can't. there's a breaking ball.
Down and away.
Right.
Could pull that with a
right.
paddle.
And probably just going to show him that one, try to get him swing and miss a ball that he couldn't make contact with. But boy, a breaking ball or change-up strike is going to go directly against the way they're playing, Joe.
Full count to Mauer with Sano at first. A conservative lead. He stays put. No, he goes. And the pitch tapped up the right side, and now another foot race. And Holland beats Mauer to the bag. Sano to second base. Miguel Sano was leading off about 4 feet and then took off to second base anyway. Coors Light Cold Hard Facts, 3 more home runs for the Twins, including Escobar's, that extended the streak to 12 straight games.
Escobar, Dozier, both with no doubters. And Sano to right field in the bullpen. Muscled the ball. Is that what you call that, a Sano doubter? When Sano hits a Sano doubter, that's a I don't believe it. That ball he hit over the batter's eye at home was, he claimed he was jammed on.
Escobar tried to deliver a 2-out hit here, and he takes us outside, ball 1. The 3-run home run was a 2-out hit in the first inning, and then Escobar struck out swinging in the third.
2 outs and 2 strikes, I think. Escobar when he drilled that ball.
The 3 home runs tonight now bring the season total to 37 for the Twins in 31 games. Haven't completed the 31st game yet. They have allowed 38 home runs. Escobar tried for another one. Fouled the back 1-1. This is a team that lost 103 games last year, but they did hit 200 home runs in 162 games. So carrying forward, I think everybody thought this team would be able to hit home runs and score runs. Another foul back, 1-2.
Biggest difference so far is the home runs are still there, but the walks are up and the strikeouts are down relative to last year. And that just means that the young hitters are growing up. They're maturing. They're figuring stuff out. As we look at James Rowson, the hitting coach, what a nice gentleman he is. And I had a chance to talk with him a little bit. Such a good guy.
1-2 to Escobar. Ball back.
I was talking with James Rowson last homestand, standing around the cage saying, I hope you don't mind, since this is our first time that we were meeting and spending some time together. I hope you don't mind that when I'm on the road with the club, sometimes I'm out at Target Field, I like to come down and watch you work with the hitters in the cage behind the dugouts and see what you're working on and just talk hitting. And he said, you want to talk hitting with me? And I said, well, I'd like to. He said, well, great. Can you explain it to me then? He says, because if you got it figured out, I'd like to know. I said, well, you can look at my stats and know I didn't have it figured out, but it's like I said, it's something that you never stop learning. And he's, even as a hitting coach, you're still trying to figure out how you can best translate information to your young charges.
2-2 to Escobar. And Escobar gets a piece of it. Stay alive. Paul Molitor kind of playing a hunch, starting Escobar in the DH spot instead of Kenny Vargas.
Well, it wasn't. I mean, you understand where he's coming from. Escobar's hitting .333 against left-handed pitching. He was 2 for 4 against Holland last time. In a limited number of bats, only 14 at bats. Vargas not hitting really well, so go with the hot hand.
To left center field, just a phenomenal at bat for Eduardo Escobar. He's hustling for second, and Sano better hurry. Sano scores, and Escobar is in safely at second with an RBI double.
And how do we like Paul's decision here?
Just a wonderful at bat. Escobar fighting off some 2-strike pitches and then finding something he could drive to the gap.
Breaking ball down. He's a good low ball hitter, but that was down and off the plate. He was able to get fully extended, just got the ball down toward the end a little bit, but was able to dump it into left center and then hustle all the way out of the box. Eduardo Escobar loves his doubles. I'll tell you that. He was thinking double all the way there.
4 runs batted in for Escobar, and now Jimenez with a single and a foul out. Sharply hit, a wicked smash, gloved by Davidson. A great play to end the top of the 5th inning. Phil Hughes now enjoys a 7-2 lead. Talked to Randy Bush today. He's an executive with the Chicago Cubs and in town here. And he's looking forward to the reunion coming up later this summer.
It's going to be great.
1 strike to Omar Narvaez. He takes up an in. 1-1.
Great run for the Twins to get back after giving up 2 in the inning previous. Throw another number up there for the White Sox to look at. That was an important run.
That's a fair ball between Mauer and the line. Narvaez will round first, dig for second, and he's aboard with a leadoff double. The White Sox went without a hit in their first 12 plate appearances, but now that's their 3rd hit in the last 5. All right, let's get the update on the broadcast experiences and the other items. We are leading the radio network experience by $400, but still plenty of time for you to bid.
All is still trending right with the world at the moment.
Now, again, I don't know on the radio side what they promised the winning bidder, but again, on our side, all the hot dogs you can eat. Here's Lurie Garcia. Get a ground ball to Dozier his first time out. Inside ball 1.
Phil Hughes has always been such a strike thrower, as we've mentioned. I've wondered, I haven't asked, I don't know if I'll ask Phil or one of his catchers, but I'm wondering if his move to throwing a lot more curveballs and changeups has affected his ability to throw strikes just a little bit.
So doink down the line, and a Garcia didn't run out of the box. He'll only get a single. But Garcia drops a fly ball fair by about a foot, and he kind of lollygagged it on the way to first. He might have had a chance for second base as well. First and third, nobody out.
Well, Phil beats him on a fastball, but he just flares the ball down the left field line. And then, as if he thought that it was going to go foul, he didn't run hard. Here's a look at him not running, just kind of trotting. Is it going to be fair? Is it going to be fair? And now it's too late. The White Sox have made 2 base running plays tonight. One, an error of commission, and this one, an error of omission, not running hard. I mean, if that's worthy of some discussion with the whole team by the manager right there. That does not look good, especially when the team hasn't been playing particularly well. You just can't, you can't play the game that way.
And now a drive to deep right field. Grossman watches it leave. And the White Sox answer for 3 quick runs here in the 5th. And it's 7-5 in a hurry.
Well, Melvin Cabrera finally said enough's enough. I'm going to sit on that breaking ball, and he just climbed all over. You can tell by how soft his legs were right there. He was not running out there on fastball speed. He was looking breaking ball the whole way. Hit the ball in the bullpen.
5 of the last 9 batters have scored. And the surge by the White Sox, a rally by the White Sox, started with Saladino's leadoff walk in the 4th, and now he swings away. First pitch fouled back. 0-1. Activity in the Twins bullpen. There's been activity in the White Sox bullpen, but now White Sox jump right back into the game here, and Tyler Duffy's getting loose in a hurry. Another foul back, and it's 0-2.
You look at the home run swing right here by Cabrera. Now watch how calm he is striding into the ball. His legs are calm. That is not a stride that is jumping out worried about a fastball speed. He was on, his whole demeanor, his body there was on breaking ball speed. I thought his last time up he started looking expecting something slower. He was absolutely sitting on the curveball.
Remembering that the White Sox made the last out of the 4th inning on the bases, with Davidson being thrown out by 15 feet at third base. 1-2 to Saladino. Nobody out here in the 5th. Now 2-2. Good man for Hughes to get, because Abreu's on deck, and then Abisail Garcia. Tried to get the fastball in the outside corner. Might have thought that he got that one too, but now it's a full count.
Yeah, Phil's a little flustered with the calls by the umpires. We look at the next 3 batters, as Dick mentioned.
Tampa left side, Sano guns it across for the first out of the inning. One down, and that'll bring up Abreu with the bases empty. Michael Manoah was warming up. And now it's Anthony Swarzak with the White Sox jumping right back into the game here. 6-0, then 7-2, but now it's 7-5. And Abreu takes low ball 1. Swarzak. To right center field and deep. Grossman chasing it. He's there in the gap to haul it in. 2 down. And that'll bring up Garcia with the bases empty. Twins fans, if you can't catch the games on TV, you can stream them live on your mobile device with Fox Sports Go. Download the app. Take Fox Sports North and Twins baseball with you wherever you go. Twins took the lead in the first inning thanks to a big 3-run home run. Now the White Sox get back into the game with a 3-run home run. Garcia with a bouncer to third, and then he hooked a double into the left field corner. 77th pitch for Hughes. He delivers ball one. Seven pitches in the fourth inning. He's already completed 5 at bats here in the 5th. 2-0.
After starting off so well, I think we noted that 5 of the first 6 hitters he had strike one on and to start the game. He has kind of lost the ability to get ahead right away and fighting his command, unlike Phil. We'll go with a changeup here, 2-0.
3-0.
And the other thing I will say is, like that pitch, which was very, very good, and Garcia laid off of it, was just low. He just missed. He's just missed on a lot of pitches. Sometimes it's like that. Sometimes you can just miss your way right out of the strike zone.
And a strike called at the belt to Garcia, who wanted to go to first. Can't blame him if he gets there. Frazier will come up representing the tying run.
You saw Phil Hughes talking to himself there. Not sure if he was mad about where he threw the pitch, or that he thought a lot of those should be called strikes, and that one finally was.
And Garcia will get a base hit, and Frazier will come to the plate as the tying run, and an interesting dilemma here for Paul Molitor. Duffy's warmed up. Hughes needs to get one more out to qualify for a win, and I think they're going to make the call. Hughes won't get the win here, and although we have not seen the signal yet, he did give the signal. Okay. And Hughes, who was sailing along through 3 innings, a little trouble in the 4th, not all his own doing, and the White Sox will get the tying run to the plate here with 2 down in the 5th. Frustration after a frustrating 4th and 5th inning. Fell behind 7 of the last 12 batters with first pitch call the ball. Now Tyler Duffy will come in and try to get the Twins off the field here in the 5th. First man he'll face is Todd Frazier. Frazier walked in the 2nd, hit the fly ball that Buxton dropped in the 4th. Three no-hit innings and then a bunch of hits. Frazier with a half swing and a strike.
So important for Tyler, any pitcher, but especially Tyler Duffy, to get that first pitch in there. As you see, Frazier getting aggressive, going right after fastball, and couldn't hold up on the ball out of the strike zone. But with that curveball that Duffy's got, so important to get ahead with a strike.
Missing the outside corner, 1-1. Up and in. It's 2-1. Plenty of power there for Frazier. He had 40 home runs last year, 3 so far this year. Two and one. Swing and a miss. 2-2. Moment fastballs, haven't they?
On 4 straight fastballs. Either he really likes his fastball coming out of the bullpen here, or they had a little conversation about what they thought Frazier had the best chance of hitting tonight. They're going to stay away from the breaking ball, just stay away with fastballs.
Popped up and will reach the seats. We've seen so many breaking balls buckle right-handed batters from Duffy. Yet here in this at bat, relying on the fastball.
It could be that there's something in the scouting report that they saw that felt like Duffy's fastball was a better matchup right now with the way Frazier's swinging.
The fastball.
Not going to take any chance on throwing him something he can pull over the fence. They're just going to stay away with fastballs.
That one a wild high at 93, and now it's a full count. Matt Davidson on deck. Garcia will leave early from first. We'll count 2 down. Howard will play behind him. High fly, center field. Buxton back on the edge of the track to haul it in. It's 54 degrees. If it were a little bit warmer, that ball might have tied the game up. You're watching Twins Baseball, presented by State Farm. The lead on the line.
Trying to stay away from a home run hitter. Just throw fastballs on the outside corner. Just missed a couple of times. He started out away. 3 of the first 4 pitches he was away, and then just kept pounding out there. showed him one high fastball, and then finally Frazier caught up to one. And Dick, as Dick said at the end of the inning, in July, that ball might have been in the seats, but not tonight. Duffy gets out of the inning.
So now it's a 7-5 ball game. It's a full or nearly full moon. And the Twins still leading, but now by just a couple of runs. It'll be Rosario hitting for the Twins, and pitching for the White Sox, former Twin Anthony Swarzak, who has been outstanding for the White Sox.
He has been really, really good. Talking, as I mentioned on Tuesday night, talking with Steve Stone, the longtime TV broadcaster here for the White Sox, that he's picked up 2 or 3 miles an hour. He's throwing 96 miles an hour now with fastballs. I didn't see that.
Rosario checks his swing and takes ball 1. For Swarzak, 14 2/3 innings, just 3 hits and only 1 walk, 17 strikeouts. And he's faced 34 batters and retired 33 of them. 1-0. Swing and a miss, 1-1. Couple of wins out of the bullpen for the White Sox. Rosario, Buxton, and Dozier here in the Twins' 6th. Fouled away, 1-2.
Well, the way this game is going, it really feels like the Twins are going to need to put up another run or 2 or 3, and if they're going to do that, they're going to have to do it against a very, very tough bullpen. Anthony Swarzak, the first guy out of the pen tonight, but they've got guys lined up behind him that are double nasty. Guys throwing hard. Anthony Swarzak, 94 to 96, and he's the soft tosser of them all.
1-2. Rosario swung at that pitch and fouled it right before it was going into Narvaez's glove. Just barely got a piece of it late. Swarzak hasn't pitched in 5 days. David Robertson, their closers, pitched once in the last 13 days, and that was just a tune-up inning. High pop-up. Very high pop-up. And Anderson with the catch behind the mound, 1 away. And it'll bring up Buxton. Buxton 0 for 2. A number off the end of the bat, nearly beat out an infield hit, then popped one up down the left field line. Committed an error that proved the beginning of to be the beginning of the end for Phil Hughes. Strike over the inside corner. This 0-2. This is where we've seen Buxton's improvement. Now he may strike out on 3 pitches, but that was a common occurrence in April, and here in the month of May he's battled after the 2nd strike. A couple of hits 2 nights ago with 2 strikes. One and two.
The challenge for Byron is going to be to continue to stay consistent in his trust of his approach back through the middle and to the opposite field. We saw him swing and miss that slider, the 2nd strike, by a lot. That was not his right center field approach. That was a pull approach, and that's why he missed it so badly. And he's going to backslide every once in a while. He's going to go back to the other way, but he's got to try to stay with the approach.
Popped up, backing out of play.
A little better there, waiting a little bit longer. He's had such a tendency when he's been up here in the big leagues, except for the month of September last year. He's had such a tendency to to be in a rush and swing at the first thing he sees out of the pitcher's hand, as if he knows it's going to be a fastball and he's trying to pull it. And that's why he misses those breaking balls by so much, and why he tends to swing and miss or pop up some fastballs. They aren't right in the spot where he's trying to pull it. When he's gotten better, he's watched it longer and hit back through the ball better. He's got to stay with that process.
Fly ball to right, retreating a few steps. Garcia, he's under it. Buxton is retired on 2. And that'll bring up Brian Dozier. Dozier struck out his first time up, and he got a letter high fastball and plastered it into the left field seats. Drew a walk in the 4th.
Yeah, I think for old time teammates' sake, Anthony Swarzak got to just see if he can throw a high fastball back, right? Just for the heck of it.
Strike 1.
That's a nice little slider right there. 87 miles an hour. It's got a nice tilt to it, meaning the ball is moving both away from Bryant and down a little bit. There it is again.
Shot foul 0-2. Swarzak, pretty valuable pitcher. Pitched on some lean pitching staffs most of his time with the Twins. 0-2 to Dozier. And Dozier took a pitch for a called strike 3. And Swarzak has another 1-2-3 inning. Their 24th win. Be the first team in the big leagues with 24 wins. Dallas Keuchel, their ace, looks like he's found it again after having a disappointing year last year. Here's Matt Davidson leading things off against Tyler Duffy in the first pitch fastball. Absolutely blistered foul. Strike. We haven't seen Duffy throw a breaking ball yet. He threw nothing but fastballs to Frazier and barely kept him in the yard to preserve the Twins' lead in the 5th.
I was just going to say that. Who would have bet that the first 8 pitches from Tyler Duffy would be fastballs? No curves. There we go.
And drops it right on the outside corner, 1-2. Davidson, Anderson, and Narvaez to hit for Chicago here in the 6th. High fly, deep left field. A high fastball on an 0-2 pitch, and Davidson sends him deep. It was up, out of the strike zone, and Davidson made it a 1-run ball game.
Well, the scouting report on Davidson is his bat. He's got a lot of power, but his bat's a little slow, so fastballs upstairs should beat him, but sure didn't there. That ball was high, and he tomahawked it. You look at it right here. Look at the pitch up above the strike zone, and he got the big end of the bat to it. Strong young man.
First time in the big leagues that Tyler Duffy's given up a home run on an 0-2 pitch. It's a 1-run game. And now Anderson. The breaking ball misses. Anderson singled his last time up. He's led 6-0, then 7-2. Now it's 7-6. Two 2-0. Foul, another fastball. 2-1. Twins have 3 home runs. White Sox have 2. Only in the 6th inning. Ball popped up behind first. Tough play. Mauer can't get there. It's a base hit. And now Anderson hung up between first and second. But Mauer's throw goes to second. And Anderson's able to scamper back. Kind of similar to Garcia. Lurie Garcia's base hit down the left field line in the 5th inning. He's found a nice resting spot between Dozier, Mauer, and Grossman.
Could not have been placed any better, and Joe actually makes a really nice play to hold Anderson to first base. I don't know that if he throws behind him to the pitcher, Duffy covered first, he'd probably get him in a rundown there. I don't think Joe had any idea that Duffy might be on standing on first.
9 of the last 13 Chicago batters have reached, and in comes Taylor Rogers. fans of the game. And saying hi to Mom in Austin, Minnesota. Twins fans for the most part. The guy on the left isn't bundled up, but everybody else is bundled up. Taylor Rogers is going to try to get more than the one out that Tyler Duffy was able to get in his 3-batter outing. Rogers been really good against left-handed batters and less so against righties. He's got a left-handed batting catcher, Narvaez, as the first man he'll face. Tim Anderson can run a little bit. He's at first. Narvaez squares and takes a strike. Switch hitting Lurie Garcia on deck, then switch hitting Melky Cabrera behind him.
Yeah, all right-handed hitters after Narvaez.
There's some activity behind Rogers in the bullpen. Of course, the Twins bullpen pretty well rested with the off day on Monday, the rain out last night. So all hands on deck. Trying to preserve now a 1-run lead. Breaking ball and a nice bunt. And Jimenez will make the play for the out. The time run now at second with one away. Deadened beautifully by Narvaez, and that'll bring up Garcia. Sanford Health injury report and a scary situation regarding Juris Familia, the closer for the Mets. Blew a save the other day, and today was diagnosed with an arterial clot in his right shoulder, and he might require surgery. Familia with a serious health issue, and the Mets have had so many issues of other kinds. The last thing they need is a serious situation surrounding their closer. Here is Garcia with Anderson at second and only one out. And Garcia switch hitter, and that's been the issue for Rogers dealing with right-handed batters. They're hitting 333 against him. He delivers low, ball one.
I asked Chris Jimenez today what he thought was going to be the key for Taylor Rogers to get better against right-handed hitters, because he is so lights out against left-handers. Chris told me he thought it just he needs to be able to command fastballs in on right-handers better. Get them thinking in so the breaking ball is more effective.
High fly to left. Going back is Rosario. And there's the catch. He'll turn and fire. Anderson trying to tag, and he is safe on a very close play. A tremendous throw from the wall by Eddie Rosario. And Sano slapped a tag on Anderson, who just barely, apparently, beat the tag.
Well, this is an incredible play. Watch the way Eddie Rosario sets up. He turns around. He knows he's going to spin from the moment he went back after that ball.
How can you be that accurate? Look at that. And Anderson.
He plays this to spin all. I mean, that is a courageous play. That is a confident play. And then he's got that good, strong, accurate arm. If he had thrown Tim Anderson out, who runs very, very well from that spot in the field, that would have been some kind of play. But I just like the fact that he was playing to do the spin around throw right from the start, almost on the warning track.
Melky Cabrera, the batter, hitting just 188 from this side of the plate. Tying run at third, 2 away. Rogers delivers ball one. Cabrera got the White Sox back into the game with a 3-run home run from the other side of the plate his last time up. And there's a strike, 1-1.
Good pitch right there on the inside corner at the knees.
What a sink at 93.
Yep. And that's a spot where Jimenez thinks that Rogers needs to be effective, and then throws curveball hard to right-handers like he does to left-handers.
Bounce to Dozier, backhanded. One of his ankles buckled again. He's able to stay with it and make the play. This time it looked like his right ankle folded on him. The Twins give one back, but still lead by 1. is presented by Northland Ford. Visit buyfordnow.com and your local Northland Ford dealer today. By Grand Casino, the best stories start here. And by Menards. Save big money at Menards on all your home improvement needs. Davidson's got a pitch literally letter high and tomahawked it into the seats of the left. And now it's 7-6. Robbie Grossman will lead off the Twins' 7th against Anthony Swarzak. And the breaking ball gets a swing and a miss. Swarzak last year pitched for the Yankees and frankly didn't have that good of a year. An ERA of 5.5. Gave up 10 home runs in 31 innings. Probably happy to get out of Yankee Stadium. Now 1-1. Imagine pitching for Scranton Wilkes-Barre, the AAA affiliate for the Yankees, and when he came up to the big league club, 10 home runs in 31 innings. But he's been virtually unhittable here with the White Sox this year. 1-1. Check the swing. And it's 2-1.
Well, around the White Sox here, they were talking about how hard he's throwing, the velocity on his fastball, but he's throwing nothing but sliders so far, these Twins hitters.
Up and in, now 3-1. Grossman started the 4-run first with a 1-out walk. 6 of the 7 runs for the Twins have been produced by 2-out hits. Dan Jennings getting loose. And Swarzak issues a leadoff walk on 5 pitches to Robbie Grossman. Casino story of the game, a lot of long balls.
It's a home run happy game so far. Eduardo Escobar got it started with a 3-run home run in the first inning. Brian Dozier comes right back in the second with an absolute bomb. 2 batters later, Miguel Sano went the opposite field, and the Twins jump out to a 6-0 lead. The White Sox got a couple back. It was 7-2, and then Melky Cabrera in the 4th with a 3-run home run, and in the 5th, I'm sorry, and then in the 6th, Davidson with a blast, and it's now 7-6.
Here is Sano with a man aboard. Pulled down the line, backhanded by Davidson. Out there, and a double play. So Swarzak issues just his 2nd walk of the season, and on the very next pitch gets a double play grounder. And that'll bring up Polanco. Polanco 0 for 3 on the day. Our State Farm combination. An around the horn double play for the White Sox. So Davidson make a really good play to wrap up the 5th inning on Jimenez's smash. Here's Polanco. Popped up. And almost into the White Sox radio booth. 1 strike. Down and in, 1-1.
Polanco's been in a little bit of a, I won't say a rut, but he hasn't been getting an awful lot of hits and been hitting the ball hard, much harder than, seems like he's been hitting the ball better than what he's got, deserved better.
Including tonight. Yep. 2 line drive outs to Garcia in center field. Well, pop up behind 3rd. Anderson ranging over. And Melky Cabrera tried to call him off, but Anderson was there for the catch. And the Twins sent just 3 to the plate against Swarzak in the 7th. baseball break. Jason Vargas with another great outing for the Kansas City Royals. And as we said earlier, the Rays completed their 37th game while the Twins had played just 30. Dallas Keuchel with 9 strikeouts, 6 wins for the Houston left-hander. And Justin Smoke and the Blue Jays had some fun today, beating the Mariners 7-2.
Boy, those Astros, they look like they've put together a kind of Earl Weaver kind of ball club. And it's Earl Weaver wanted good starting pitching, and a whole bunch of guys hit the ball out of the ballpark, and that's what they're doing down there in Houston.
Well, the Twins need a good outing for many reasons from Ryan Presley. It's just a 1-run game. Presumption is Presley would be asked to get the outs in the 7th, Belisle the outs in the 8th, and then Kinsler the outs in the 9th. But there's a lot of work to do trying to protect a 1-run lead. The Lions had a very disappointing start to his season.
Yeah, they really need Ryan Presley to find himself here and start pitching like he can. He hasn't done it yet.
And a strike called. That quick breaking ball or cutter, 90 miles per hour. Strike 1. Saladino 0 for 2 with a walk and a run scored. And another one just off the plate. At the slower breaking ball, 1-1.
Yeah, he's got 2 of them. We saw them both now. And basically, it's just a question of speed difference and slightly different trajectory, but throws them similarly. One's a bigger curveball that's slower, and one of them's a tight little spinner.
Back to a fastball, and it's 1-2.
He has the kind of fastball that, unlike Phil Hughes, who seems sneaky and the ball seems to get on hitters, with Presley you get the feeling that the hitters see the ball pretty well. Even though he throws 95, he's got to establish his ability to throw breaking balls for strikes so that 95-mile-an-hour fastball is effective.
There's the curve in the dirt. Check swing. No swing. That was Presley's big strikeout pitch last year. He actually had a decent year last year. Not many of the Twins pitching staff did. Fox Tracks presented by Carrier. Here is the big over-the-top breaking ball that landed just in front of the plate.
Right. If that ball's 6 inches, 8 inches higher, Saladino probably swings and misses it. Just hasn't had the best command of all his pitches quite yet this season. But that's what he's trying to do.
There it is, a better one.
Yep, he just needed about 8 inches more height than the one before that, and the hitter can't lay off.
You look at that stuff and you understand why, the Twins are exhibiting a lot of patience with him. I mean, it looks like it's impossible to hit if he can throw it in that spot.
Yeah, that's exactly right. If he throws it there after impressing a hitter with a fastball, I mean, 95, even if you see it well, 95 is still 95, and you've got to be quick to hit it. And once I see that 95, if he can throw that pitch right there, he's going to get hitters out.
And now Abreu, strikeout, 2 outfield flies.
There's the quicker one. And you can see what they're trying to do. Where early in the season, he would come in just throwing 95 and thinking he can throw it by everybody, and guys were teeing off pretty well. But start off guys with breaking ball strikes. Now they don't know what's coming, and it backs them off that fastball quite a bit. And 95 looks a little bit more like 98.
Fastball in around the hand.
Yeah, that's a great pitch to Abreu there. Curveball strike, fastball in. He's got the ability to come back outside with fastball or throw that good curveball. But if he's going to throw the curveball, he's got to be in a good spot.
It's the 7th inning, but the Twins are in no doubles defense here. You can hardly see the outfielders, and Sano's shadow is draped across the third baseline.
He's going to try to come in there again.
95 again, right by the knuckles.
Yep.
You can see where Sano is, and you can barely see the outfielder. Buxton is about 20 feet in front of the warning track. Two and one to Jose Abreu.
So impress him with fastballs in, go in there twice, then throw him a good curveball. That was a hanger right there, and that's the trouble. He's got the good curveball, but not always. And it seems like fastballs in the middle of the plate and hanging breaking balls, when he's thrown them, he hasn't gotten away with. They've been tattooed pretty well.
3-1 to the Chicago Slugger.
There's
threw
the good
a really good
Yep.
curveball, and Abreu swung way over the top of it.
Yeah, I'm just sitting on fastball 3-1, just absolutely convinced he was going to get a fastball, and Presley threw into a real good dewdrop there. Now, if you're the hitter, you have no idea what you're going to get. Surely, if he throws it 3-1, he's going to come back and throw it 3-2, right? If you're looking for a curveball, you can sneak 95 by him. So he's going fastball away.
Off the mask of Jimenez.
96 miles an hour.
Both Presley and Michael Tonkin struggled this year, and the Twins designated Tonkin for assignment and kept Presley because of what you see. Michael Tonkin has never been able to make the ball move the way Presley can with his two breaking balls. Both guys throw hard in the mid-90s. Jimenez, series of signs. 3-2 to Abreu. Breaking ball lifted over by the Twins dugout, now to play.
That was the slider. That was his fourth pitch. He's got fastball and two kinds of up and down curveballs, and then a slider. This is a dangerous pitch to throw when you have to throw a strike with it, because it tends to hang. But that was a really, really good pitch.
And yet Abreu fought it off.
Now he's going to the bigger, slower one.
Abreu fights that off. 8 pitches. And you see the difference. Not to pick on Tyler Saladino, but Abreu's a better hitter because he can fight these pitches off. 3-2 foul balls in this at bat by Abreu. Got him with a high fastball. 2 down.
Well, that's some good pitching right there.
Garcia.
This is great. So you're going to start him with a curveball, come in with fastballs. So you've impressed him with everything you've got now. 3-1 curveball. And then finally, after he fouled off some good pitches, throw it right in under his hands, but for a strike, to strike him out with 95 miles an hour. That's some good pitching.
2 down, and now Abisail Garcia. Double and a single in 3 trips here tonight. He was the last guy Phil Hughes faced after dropping a single into left field. And Tyler Duffy got Frazier to complete the 5th inning. Red Sox added a run in the 6th. 2 away now in the 7th. And we'll do ball 1. Good breaking ball, gets a swing and a miss.
Well, if he can do that, he overthrew the first one, but if he has confidence enough and the ability enough to come back and throw that good a curveball 1-0, now you got something. That's if he can find the command immediately after throwing one that wasn't good. That's really, really good. Now that fastball end's going to look like faster than 95.
Down and in. Garcia missed it by about a foot. That had some movement.
That even had some run on it, yeah. Well, if he comes up with some movement on his fastball, then that changes everything. His fastball has always been pretty straight. Now that one had some great sink action on it.
You can almost tell by the way Jimenez caught it that it had a lot of dart to it. 1-2.
He throws this curveball in a good spot like he did the other two. He's going to get it.
How about it? That inning by Ryan President. Cutting through Saladino, Abreu, and Garcia, striking out the side. All 3 strikeouts, swinging strikeouts. yeah.
Boy, he tempted to run Presley back out there with how he was feeling it in the 7th.
Joe Mauer will be the first man Jennings faces, his 16th game of the year. It'll be Mauer switch hitting Eduardo Escobar and then Chris Jimenez. Breaking ball, left up and in, ball 1. Mauer drove in the first Twins run with a 2-out single in the first. Since then, a strikeout and a little number up the line. Ground out to Abreu in the 5th. You saw Jennings' numbers haven't been very good. The league hitting .354 against him.
With the White Sox behind, not going with their flamers out of the bullpen, trying to get a good inning here out of a softer throwing left-hander.
2-0 to Mauer. .3-0. Control hasn't been an issue, at least outside the strike zone. Jennings hasn't issued a whole bunch of walks, 3 of them in 11 1/3 innings. But left-handers and right-handers hitting well over 300 against him. .3-0 to Mauer. Escobar on deck. And down the middle of strike. Nevertheless, Jennings has a couple of wins out of the Chicago bullpen. White Sox trying to come back and win this game and get back to the 500 mark. Twins trying to move 3 games over the 500 mark. Hold straight back. And it's 3-2. Mauer's seen 17 pitches so far tonight. He's taken 3 swings. That foul, the RBI single, and one other one, the ground ball.
Yep, classic Joe. That run he drove in the first inning was a big run. 2-out RBI, kept the inning going. In front of Escobar's 3-run home run.
Call, 3rd strike on the outside corner. 2nd time that Jerry Lane has rung up Joe Mauer. It had the corner.
At the corner.
So 1 down. Jennings asked to give Mauer and Mauer only. Canely will pitch next for the White Sox to switch hitter Eduardo Escobar. Twins have some options on the bench, but Escobar's driven in 4 of the runs tonight as a right-handed batter. He may get a shot to hit left-handed.
7-6, and Twins fans, don't forget at Twins home games, bring your Circle Me signs. If you get circled, you may find yourself in the Minnesota Lottery winner's circle where you could win $100 worth of lottery scratch-off tickets, courtesy of the Minnesota Lottery.
Well, we've talked about the White Sox bullpen, how good it's been. And Anthony Swarzak has already pitched tonight. And this guy, Tommy Kahnle, two of the main reasons why. Kahnle, as you see, 11 innings, so that's 33 outs worth of work. He's gotten 33 outs, 21 of them on strikeouts.
In 11 innings. You talk about a guy that has great leverage. He loses his legs and throws down off the bat. He really gets on top of the ball. I think Bert Blyleven would love this guy's mechanics. Drive off the back leg and get that downward plane.
Escobar fouls the first pitch back.
Here's what we're talking about here. Stand tall, stay over your back leg, drive forward, and come down with that downward plane and let it go. And that's good mechanics right there.
One strike to Escobar. Another foul. You saw in the graphic we showed you a moment ago, 99 miles per hour by Kahnle. But it won't get any easier for the Twins batters later on in this road trip. After the game, the Twins go to Cleveland, and they'll face the only bullpen that's been better than Chicago's in terms of stinginess. 0-2 to Eduardo Escobar. And the dirt. See Escobar fattening up his right-handed numbers with a 2-out, 3-run home run in the first and a 2-out RBI double in the fifth. You get it going from this side of the plate. Check swing, 2-2. No appeal, but no swing. Matt Belisle warming up. I presume he'll come in to try to get the 3 outs in the bottom of this inning. 2-2 to Escobar. Jimenez on deck. Saw 11 innings, and Kahnle's only walked 2 men and given up 6 hits. So he's not used to having guys on base. Escobar didn't walk a whole lot, and he takes ball 4.
That's the big difference for Kahnle for the most part. He's always had that great arm, but he's not been able to get in the strike zone enough times. He's been doing that this year. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Minnesota Twins and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. The accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Minnesota Twins, LLC.
That's the voice of Roy Smalley. Glad to be working with Roy again in Bert Blyleven's absence. Roy will be in Cleveland. And the Twins hope to win the series finale here in Chicago. Here's Chris Jimenez. Whacked down the line, foul. Jimenez has put the barrel on it a few times here tonight. He got a single in the first, and he had a wicked one-hop smash. Davidson made a nice play to retire him and end the 5th inning.
Yeah, I don't believe hitting a fastball is Jimenez's issue. He's gotten a big end of the bat to the ball 2 times in fair territory and then turned that fastball around down the line, foul.
Miss, there's a breaking ball. It's presumed that at some point this weekend in Cleveland, Jimenez in a private ceremony will be given his American League Championship ring by the Indians. Derek Falvey, Twins chief baseball officer on the road trip, will get his ring as well. 0-2. Just missed the outside edge.
Ball had a lot of movement there. Catcher had a hard time holding on to it. 88-mile-an-hour changeup or something funky there.
I'm seeing why this guy's been so tough to
You
hit.
bet. Looks like he's tough to catch.
1-2. Jimenez on a half swing as a strikeout victim. 2 down, and that'll bring up Rosario.
So you can see him turning something over there. That's an awfully hard changeup, or he's trying to throw some kind of sinker or something. His fastball is 98, and then that one's like 88, 89, 90 miles an hour. I don't know what it is, but he's throwing his hand over the top of the ball and making it really sink. And I think it must be some kind of changeup, I guess.
Here's Rosario. Down the right field line to the corner, chased by Garcia, and Garcia won't get there. It's a foul ball. Had it been fair, he might have caught it. It was foul, looked like by a couple of inches. It's a good effort by Garcia, who had to make a long run, and as you can see, there's not a whole lot of foul territory down there. Two feet foul.
Yeah, guy's running that hard, and he knows the fence is going to be right on top of him if he's able to get close to the ball. That's a tough play.
1 strike to Rosario. And now a ball. We got 4 runs in the first, 2 in the second, 1 in the fifth. Fouled the other one over the tarp, and it's 1-2. Rosario's had more impact on the field than at the plate. Buxton would hit next. Rosario already has 1 assist, an inning-ending throw out at third base, nearly picked up another one. 1-2 from Canely to Rosario. And a strikeout ends the inning. 3 strikeouts and a walk in a scoreless top of the 8th inning. game. Max Kepler is off the bench and in right field replacing Robbie Grossman. And Matt Belisle is on the mound hoping to have a clean 8th inning as Ryan Presley had a clean 7th inning. And Belisle has had not one but 2 bad outings, and in the role that he's in, it's hard enough to recover from one, but he's had a couple of really ugly innings. Frazier on the first pitch lifts it to Kepler, and Belisle will take all of those he can get. 1 away. All right, running out of time here, folks, and the radio network experience is outbidding, or the top bid is $400 more.
Come on,
now, I
folks.
saw you left the room. Did you go and bid on the TV broadcast experience?
I went and made some calls.
Did you? To your peeps?
Come on, folks.
It's all going to the Twins Community Fund, so we encourage bidding on all the items except the Twins Radio Network experience. 1 down. Here's Matt Davidson. Davidson with a home run and an RBI groundout. And Belisle went upstairs where Davidson hit the home run, facing Tyler Duffy in the 6th inning. Two and 0. Belisle on April 26th in Texas pitched 2/3 of an inning and gave up 5 earned runs. And then at home against Boston, 1/3 of an inning, and he gave up 6 earned runs. And he misses down and away. Now it's 3-0 with Anderson on deck. And now a strike, 3-1. Davidson hitting his 6th home run of the year against Duffy in the 6th inning. Swing and a miss.
Good pitch there. That's the pitch that Frazier popped up. Slider on the outside corner. That's Belisle's best pitch. He's got a low 90s fastball that he moves around, but his best pitch, if you throw that slider out there, is going to go back fastball now.
Missed inside, and it's a 1-out walk. That'll bring up Tim Anderson. The focus, of course, is getting through the 8th inning with the lead, but if you can do so without too many guys on base, you've got a shot with Kinsler pitching the 9th. You won't have to face Abreu. Sanchez is going to run for Davidson. And Anderson will bat. Singles his last 2 times up. You can go at him and not be too concerned about him drawing a follow-up walk.
You're right.
He's only walked 3 times all year.
He will put the ball in play, and you won't walk him. So make some tough pitches. You do not have to throw the ball down the middle of the strike zone to get this guy to swing at it.
Sanchez has 1 steal. He's been thrown out twice. The White Sox have 9 steals. They've been thrown out 10 times. Long hold and another throw. In case you're wondering, I was. Anderson's grounded into 3 double plays. Called. Two relievers warming up, Brandon Kinsler and Craig Breslow. Breslow will be asked to get Narvaez, left-handed batter who's in the on-deck circle. Knocked down Jimenez, ball one.
It's a tough matchup. Anderson has hit very, very well here in this ballpark. Not hitting well overall, but he's hit very well in this ballpark. And at some point in time, you got to throw him a strike.
Runner goes and the pitch fouled away. Other than a straight steal, that looked like a hit and run. Dozier was covering the bag at second, and it looked from his swing as if Anderson was trying to hit the ball behind the runner. 1-1. Anderson very strikeout prone, about 1 every 4 at bats. See if Belial can get him to 2 strikes here. Runner goes again and again. The pitch fouled down the right field line, out of play. That happens very often when the manager tries a hit and run on back-to-back pitches.
No, not very often, but he had a real advantage with the 1-0 pitch. You're not going to pitch out. 1-1, not likely to do it either, so he came right back with it. That's an interesting call.
And now the count is 1-2 to the strikeout prone Tim Anderson. There's a chase. Anderson's not struck out yet tonight, but 122 at bats and 31 strikeouts.
Well, Belial's strikeout pitch is that slider down and away that we just saw in a few hitters ago. But he's been throwing the ball by Anderson. He's been beating him on a fastball, so he's probably going to stick with that.
Setting up the target inside.
Which means fastball for sure. Jimenez sees that too. He's behind on the fastball. Now he's going to the slider. This is the strikeout pitch. He's going to try to throw it right on the outside corner.
Good bite.
Yeah, it's a good try. Really good try.
Now it's a full count. And Sanchez will probably be in motion again. Ground ball double play. Twins dugout to take a strike him out, throw him out.
Twins dugout will take an out here. Any kind of way they can get it out.
Sanchez goes, and the ball live for the Twins dugout. Tying run at first, 1 away. Bottom of the 8th inning. There's ball 4. Jimenez threw down, but Jerry Lane did not call strike 3. So a pair of 1-out walks here, and the White Sox have the tying run in scoring position. Here comes Paul Molitor.
Ball just off the plate, and against all odds, he walked Tim Anderson. That's not easily done.
Just the 4th time he has walked in over 120 at bats. Brandon Kinsler will be brought in to try to get the last 5 outs of the game.
think I ever take myself that serious. You know, I've been to the bushes of baseball, I've been to pin a ball to the mountaintop of, you know, closing a game door. I don't think I could take it ever serious. I know this business switches real fast. So I'm glad to have any role they want to give me, if it's the 9th inning, the 6th inning, whatever helps the team. But I know all roles are important on this any 25-man roster, so I'll take what they give me.
And the Twins are asking him to get 5 outs. And if he can get 2 outs on 1 pitch here, he might not have to face Abreu in the 9th. Omar Narvaez, the first batter he'll face. You can see Kinsler with reverse splits in terms of success rate. He's been much better against lefties than righties. Narvaez dropped a sacrifice down his last time up, doubled to right, ground ball to short.
Well, if Kinsler's right, he can get a two out, make a 2-out pitch here. If he's right with that sinker, he can get a ground ball pretty easily.
2 walks have put the White Sox in a good spot here. 1st and 2nd, 1 down. And a first pitch strike. When we say that Kinsler sinks the ball and he gets a lot of ground balls, that tends to not give him enough credit for the velocity that he brings.
Absolutely
he throws
right.
in the mid-90s with some sink.
Yeah, it's not the sink, it's the velocity of the sink that I've been just so impressed with.
First pitch, 94 miles per hour. And Jimenez with the block, 1-1.
Well, when Kinsler's on the mound and you're behind the plate, you know you're going to have a fair chance of getting some of those. You're going to have to be good on balls in the dirt, because Kinsler's going to try to keep the ball down and the ball's going to sink.
Like Twins caught a break there. Jimenez kind of blocked it awkwardly and hit the outside of his glove, but fell right in front of him. 1-1. Now 2-1.
That block by Jimenez is a testimony to the sink on Kinsler's fastball. I think Chris thought that he was going to catch it above the ground, and that late movement almost handcuffed the catcher.
Kinsler's had kind of a tough go as of late. His last 3 outings, 3 innings, he's given up 8 hits and 4 runs of his own. Swing and a miss, and it's 2-2. Kinsler with 13 1/3 innings and just 6 strikeouts, but he'd love to get one here.
He'd love a 2-hopper at Brian Dozier even more.
Fouled over the on-deck circle for the White Sox. Jimenez and Kinsler will talk about it.
I think this conversation right here between pitcher and catcher is what about your other pitch? You want to throw anything else? He's given him all fastballs, all sinkers. That's his best pitch. He's got a little slider. He reserves that primarily for right-hand hitters. But I think Chris Jimenez went out there and said, okay, what do you think? Do you want to just keep pumping that sinking fastball in here, or do you want to show him anything else?
2-2 to Narvaez. That kicks away from Jimenez, and they'll move up. And it's a full count to Narvaez. A wild pitch, advancing Sanchez 90 feet away.
Just overthrew that sinker, got over the top of it, and there wasn't much that Chris could do there on that one.
And now the Twins bring the infield in here. Lurie Garcia is the on-deck batter. Only 1 out in the inning, and that came in the inning's first pitch.
Tough call by the manager right here. You want to cut off that tying run at the plate, but you're also cutting down your range of your infielders to to prevent the potential winning run at second base from scoring. It's a tough decision what to do here. Especially with a ground ball pitcher like Kinsler on the mound. I mean, you got to try to win the game. You got to cut off this run, but you are leaving yourself vulnerable to both of them scoring a ball that finds a hole and through a drawn-in infield.
Full count to Narvaez. Got him. And Jimenez with the block has to make a throw to first, 2 away. Narvaez, 50 at bats, 8 strikeouts, and a big one for Kinsler, provided he can now get Garcia.
Well, that was huge there for a ground ball pitcher to go ahead and strike the guy out right there. Strike out Narvaez with runners on second and third. That, any kind of contact would look. He had a good chance of tying up this ball game. That's a huge strikeout, obviously.
See, Leury Garcia's delivered for the White Sox big time in situations like this. Infield back at standard depth. Tying run at third, go ahead run at second, 2 away. Down and away, ball 1. The 9th pitch for Kinsler. He'd love a quick resolution here and a quick end to the 8th. He's going to be asked to get the outs in the 9th. One and 0. At the knees. See, it acted like that ball was thrown at his hip.
Yeah, the ball had a lot of movement there. I don't know what, not that much. I don't know exactly what he was seeing there, but you do get a little bit of an idea how much movement Kinsler can put on that single.
1-1. Oh my! That went right in front of Melky Cabrera's face. 1-2.
And very close to the little bat boy as well. Scary. You see the lower left of your screen, right?
Head high.
Oh man.
1-2 to Leury Garcia. Got him looking over the inside corner, and the White Sox leave 2 men in scoring position. We head to the 9th, and you're watching Twins baseball presented by State Farm. But instead, he got 2 big strikeouts.
And the last one was classic. It throws that hard sinker down for the first pitch. The next pitch I mean, I don't know what Garcia was seeing, but as soon as he made that move on an inside sinker, go right back in there again to strike him out. He's not going to see that pitch. Kinsler, after struggling a little bit, all of a sudden got his really good command back just in time.
Kinsler will pace back and forth here, as we saw him do last year when he was asked to get outs in the 8th and 9th inning, trying to keep the blood flowing.
Yep.
It's not nervousness so much as why try to warm up again if you keep yourself a little warm, particularly on a chilly night. Here's David Robertson.
I think that's a smart way to do it. That's the new theory.
Byron Buxton takes strike one. 0 for 3. He's put the ball in play 3 times, once on the ground, twice in the air. Yolmer Sanchez staying in the game. He's in at third base for Davidson. See if Buxton tries to bunt here. Takes strike one. Now he takes strike 2. That's strike 3, but the ball's in the air. And Narvaez throws low, and it's dug out by Abreu. Buxton strikes out, and the ball went 45 feet in the air, but landed up the third baseline. And then Narvaez threw low in the dirt, but Abreu dug it out.
And Narvaez got a huge break because the ball bounced right up to him. First of all, Buxton doesn't think he swung at the ball, gets a late break, but look at that ball bounce right up, belt high, where Narvaez can just grab it. And then he's got all kinds of time to throw him out. Almost threw the ball down. Almost threw Byron a triple.
One down. Here's Dozier. Big swing, a foul. It looked like that left ankle of Bryant buckled again. We saw it on a ground ball. I think it was his right ankle. He appears to be fine, but I don't think that ankle is anywhere close to 100%. It looked like the front leg kind of gave out on him.
Well, I think he spins real hard on that ankle, and I think he was protecting it there. I think he was fine, but his left ankle is that front ankle that's hurt, and I'm sure he felt it as soon as that started to spin. He just kind of bailed on it so that he wouldn't twist it.
2 strikeouts, a home run, and a walk. 1 strike to Dozier.
Tough duty against this guy on the mound. Even Robertson's got some nasty stuff.
Swing and a miss, and it's 0-2.
Hard breaking ball out there in a great spot. He throws hard. He's got a little cutter and a real good curveball.
Scored their 7 runs against Derek Holland since the bullpen had been brought into the game. The Twins have a couple of walks, and that's it. No hits. Oh, and 2. I don't believe I've ever seen a gap as big as the one that exists in right center field right now. If he hits it over the umpire's head, sore ankle or not, he's got an inside the park home run. Kinsler trying to keep the blood flowing. Dozier's out on strikes, looking for the 2nd time, 3rd time overall. The last 5 outs by the Chicago bullpen have all been strikeouts.
We talked about how good they are. They've got some real good arms out there to finish ball games.
Here's Max Kepler, first plate appearance for Kepler. Grossman had a good day at the plate. He walked twice, 0 for 2, hit the ball hard 1 time. And now Kepler will take his swings against Robertson. Low, ball 1. Fouled back, had a good cut at the cutter, and fouled it back.
Some guys can throw cutters and have them be really, really effective. Mariano Rivera, the greatest of all at that, where David Robertson learned it as well. Brian Shaw with Cleveland, great cutter. But it has to be great or it's a real hittable pitch.
And lifted foul out of play, 1-2. One and 2 to the Twins right fielder. Checked his swing. And the ball rolling toward the dugout, 2-2. You can understand why the White Sox bullpen's been so good. A lot of velocity and a lot of movement. It's a pretty deadly combination. Sano hoping for a chance here in the ninth. Swing and a miss. And the Twins were struck out 3 up, 3 down in the 8th, and again here in the 9th. In Detroit on April 13th, Justin Haley pitched 3 1/3 innings to pick up one of those long saves. But the last time a closer got a save of 5 or more outs, it was August 2012 by Glenn Perkins. Kinsler got 2 strikeouts to preserve the lead in the 8th, and now Melky Cabrera, Tyler Saladino, and Jose Abreu will face him here in the 9th. Cabrera clobbered a 3-run home run back in the 5th that got the White Sox back in the game. Squaring and taking ball 1. Kinsler, the 5th relief pitcher in relief of Phil Hughes, who was taken out with 2 outs in the 5th. 1-0. Same spot, same call, 2-0. Gave the White Sox an opportunity with a couple of walks in the 8th, and they don't want to repeat that again in the 9th. There is a strike, 2-1.
Brandon Kinsler has shown the ability to be able to come back and get himself back under control after throwing ball 1 or ball 2, as he did just there. But when he's really good, when he's really good, he just pounds a low strike zone with pitch after pitch.
Swing and a miss, 2-2. snapper, left side. Sano fires it in time to get Cabrera by a half step, one down. Coming down the stretch, look at that. The radio network experience is outbidding us by plenty now. You still have time to bid. All the hot dogs you can eat.
I just can't believe that people are really believing all of those lies that Corey Provis told. He just made up all that
Obviously
stuff.
an act of desperation, but it seems to be working. One down here in the ninth. Saladino will bat. Saladino on the night, a walk, 2 strikeouts and a ground out. Strike one. Saladino may get a hit. He may get a double, but it won't be between Miguel Sano and the line.
Jorge Polanco pulled way over too. That's a right-hand hitter against a ball sinking into him like that. That's a good spot to play.
And on the outside corner now, Kinsler works ahead 0-2.
I think that's really smart by the shortstop, where the bench has the shortstop plan if it's not Jorge's decision. But you get a ball moving hard into a right-hander like this, there's no sense of playing him up the middle. He's going to hits the ball on the ground. It's going to be over there.
Just missed the outside edge, and it's 1-2.
Tried to get him with a slider. 0-2. Try to just get the corner with that breaking ball and just missed it.
Now 2-2. So important to pitch to Abreu with nobody on base. Top run producers in the league. Two and 2 to Saladino. Got him on the outside corner, 2 down. 3 strikeouts in an inning and a third for Brandon Kinsler. Came into the game with just 6 strikeouts in 13 and a third.
Well, the inside of the ball got the outside of the strike zone, looked like right there. Too close to take. I don't know if it was a strike, but with Jerry Lane's strike zone tonight, it was chances are it was going to be. That's a good pitch
inside
in there.
ball 1.
He's going to have to be down and with sink against this guy. Just really punish down hard sink. Like that.
1-1. Merely a pitch to contact closer. He hasn't given up much contact at all. Just a weak 2 hopper to Sano. 8 called strikes in his outing tonight. Driven to right. Kepler there.
We got a guy there.
And the Twins end up winning this 2-game series. And Roy Smalley, Twins fans may have been biting their fingernails, but the Twins themselves hung on by their fingernails.
They hung on to get the two-game sweep by beating the White Sox the first game without Brian Dozier and Miguel Sano in the lineup, and then homering their way to a nail-biting finish here today. 2 really good victories over the White Sox.
And Twins will open a series tomorrow in Cleveland against the Indians, and Irvin Santana will be on the mound against Josh Tomlin in the opener. Pre-game show 5:30 on Fox Sports North. Anthony, Twins had a weather-interrupted series here in Chicago, but a successful one nonetheless.